Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev, where today we continue working on our dodgeball game with roguelike elements. Now, last time we started work on the basics for the dodgeball portion of our game. By the end of the session, the player was able to pick up, throw, catch, and block balls. The results were slightly janky, due to an attempt to make things universal, so that the players and the enemy AI could use the same code. And we'll hopefully aim to remedy said jank as part of today's plan. We'll basically be starting from scratch to take an entirely new and different approach to this project. That's right, we'll be ditching the old code to try rebuilding this game using GameMaker's physics system. Now, I'm not very familiar with the capabilities of said physics, so like last time, we'll just take things slow starting with the basics. Oh yeah, we're covering even more uncharted ground here on Let's Dev, so let's get to the coding. But first, with the code comes a new visual perspective. We're going for a Hotline Miami vibe for the top-down approach, as opposed to the usual side view. And as you can see, some of the basic physics have already been set up. And a bonus that comes with this new setup is the automatic inclusion of a fully featured collision system. So now on to the code. The first thing up was grabbing balls. Similar checks for the E key and ball distance were made. However, not only is the ball's ID stored, but the physics of said ball are also disabled, and its speed is reset to 0. And apparently, speed is not defined until physics objects are actually quote-unquote awake, so that was removed from the event. However, this did not allow us to pick up balls. Turns out positioning is also different when dealing with physics, and so the physics-specific position checks were made instead, allowing our player to finally pick up a dang ball. So now that we could finally handle our balls, it was time to do some tossing. The same throw code from last time was re-added, and instead of giving the ball a throw speed, actual force would be applied to the ball being thrown. It took a bit to get a comfortable throw speed, but eventually the handling of said balls were comfortable enough. However, because we disabled physics for held balls, they, well, no longer interacted with the rest of the physical world. So the disabling of physics was removed, which, to my surprise, did not break the game. And even better, the balls would now physically collide with other balls. Next, the ball was given an owner variable, which would be set when the player picks up the ball. This would be necessary as we attempt to add the fail state back into our game. The equivalent to a place meeting check for the physical objects was made, which didn't end up working, and was promptly replaced by over-reliable. In said check, an owner check was made, and if the ball wasn't thrown by the player, it would reset the game. The spawner code was then updated to constantly fire physical balls for the opposing side. The results were pretty successful, outside of stray balls being a danger when they shouldn't be. So a timer was added to limit just how long a ball is considered quote-unquote in play, and these changes indeed helped prevent balls that are no longer in play from resetting the game. So finally, the player's movement speed was again slowed down when charging their throws. And sadly, that's all I could get to this session. I clearly have a lot left to learn about the physics system in GameMaker. A lot of time was spent realizing certain things just don't work the same way that they normally do. There's also a lot of weird kinks left to iron out, like the player's rotation slowly offsetting while blocking. Also, you know, the whole inconsistent collision behavior between player and opposing balls. So indeed, there is still a bit to get through before we can move on to the roguelite stuff. However, I am enjoying this version of the project a lot more than the previous. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the old, but change in perspective in the physics system is making this truly a unique experience here on Let's Dev. But with that said, brings us to the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts on our progress in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.